Welcome everyone to the 2019 Mazda CX-5. This is Mazda's compact crossover that is a very formidable and rather pretty choice in this ultra competitive segment. For the 2019 model year, there has been some rather noteworthy additions to this compact crossover. Notably, the car that you see in front of me is the Signature model. This is the first time that the Signature trim has been available in the CX-5. We've seen it previously with the CX-9 and Mazda6. And what Mazda is aiming for with this trim is to try and hook away some buyers that might be looking at a similarly sized vehicle with a premium badge on the grille. With the CX-5 Signature, it gets some exclusive touches with the interior and a few other exclusive goodies, and I'm going to break all of that down further. So let's uncover everything that I think you should know about the CX-5, and then at the end of the video, I'll place it in my ranking system to see where it lies against other compact crossovers. So without further ado, let's go for a drive. So perhaps the most noteworthy addition to the latest CX-5 is the 2.5 turbocharged four-cylinder engine. This has the same 250 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque on premium fuel that you'll find in the latest Mazda 6 and the CX-9. I mention premium fuel because on standard grade gasoline, this vehicle produces 227 horsepower, but critically, that number in torque stays the exact same. Mazda's thought behind this is that not many people are revving out their compact crossover, in this case, to redline. They're wanting, as much power low down to help merge on a highway or get off the line. And it is an engine that delivers a fair amount of punch. In comparison to the CX-9, I felt like that had a little more character to it. You could hear the turbo whooshing more, you could hear it spooling up. Here, not so much. Turbo lag is noticeable but hardly an issue in this vehicle, and it's sending power to all four wheels with this 6-speed automatic transmission. The sport mode down here that you have a little toggle switch for doesn't really change much in driving dynamics. As far as I can tell, all it really does is keep those revs hanging higher up in the rev range, making the engine more reactive. I'd say it's still a delightful driving experience, but maybe not as exuberant as the CX-9. With the Signature, the 2.5 turbo is the only engine you can get in this trim, but the 2.5 litre exists in all of the other models with a few slight differences. In the GX, GS and GT, it's a naturally aspirated engine, but the turbocharged engine is an optional upgrade in the GT. And with those two mid-level trims, those engines actually have cylinder deactivation. Not sure why the cylinder deactivation can't exist on the turbo engine, but there's no capability for it here in this car. And then throughout the range, all-wheel drive is available in any configuration, but with the absolute base model, the standard model, that comes with front-wheel drive. And then you'll have to tick an options box to get that GX with all-wheel drive. However, let's talk about the driving characteristics a little later in this review and focus on what really makes the Signature model special. The interior. With the Signature, you are getting some exclusive materials that you can only find in this trim, and primarily that is the cocoa brown leather that you see here on the seats and a few other spots on the door cards and so on. This is such a subtle and rich brown that you would be really hard pressed to tell the difference between the black plastics and this brown leather. You've got the chrome accents that you'll find in any of the other CX-5s, but here it has Apache wood trimmings. A very tasteful, very elegant, it feels like a very premium space. And then beyond that, the 7-inch digital instrument cluster that you have in front of the driver is exclusive to the Signature. And then those 19-inch wheels are exclusive in their gunmetal appearance. The layout of everything in here is incredibly straightforward. The HVAC controls, no nonsense. Got the gear lever directly behind it, a little bit of storage in front of that, and then you have Mazda's rotary wheel setup that is very reminiscent of BMW's current iDrive system. There's a little bit of black plastic surrounding here, so that's what might scratch up and get a little dusty. But with the combination of all of these materials, the CX-5 overall feels like a more premium space than the dollar figure attached to it would let on. Here's a feature that I quite like. Here in the sun visor, you have the sliding portion, as you do, to see your mirror, but there's a little cutaway here for business cards, and look at the slickness of that motion as it always folds away and folds back up elegantly. Quite like that little touch. The 7-inch touchscreen is a standard feature for the 2019 CX-5, featuring Apple Carplay and Android Auto, but it isn't a touchscreen when you're moving along. It only works when you're at a standstill, so that means that you have to resort to the dial setup and buttons down here, and it's incredibly easy to use in the main system menu, but I find it being just a touch confusing when you're scrolling through music here on Apple CarPlay or you're on your maps. Just trying to follow the rotation of the dial, and when you're trying to select something, like for example when you're trying to move the map around, I think is a bit too difficult for its own good. And Mazda's thought process was that if you're taking your eyes away from the road to try and find something on the touchscreen, you're potentially a hazard. But I find with this, I'm spending more time looking at the screen, trying to make sure it's just one button click or two scrolls over to select something in there. So the Apple CarPlay integration, I know we all complained that Mazda's for quite some time didn't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, but I'm much happier having it here than without, despite it being a little complicated to work around. For a tall driver, I'm very happy in here. I've got plenty of space. I think taller drivers might want more leg support with these seats, but on long highway cruising, because you're sitting quite high up, in my situation, I've found long highway cruisers in this very comfortable and easy. When we're talking about rear passenger comfort, in the Signature model, we have heated rear seats, so two 6-footers can happily sit behind two 6-footers up front and everybody have a heated seat. And the second row seats fold down 3 ways, so that makes it very adjustable for carrying longer items. Then it leads into a more than satisfactory trunk space. Standard equipment with the CX-5 includes the 7-inch touchscreen, as I said, the heated front seats, automatic lights and LEDs all around. And then finding your way up into the GS and the GT and then eventually the Signature, more options present themselves, like ventilated front seats, heated rear seats, a heated steering wheel, dual zone climate control, Mazda's iActive safety sense equipment. So that's their lane keeping assist, forward collision warning and radar assisted cruise control. If you option up with all-wheel drive, you're getting that safety system with it. Something to note with the gauge cluster in combination of this digital readout is that you have a physical analog fuel meter and a digital one, and at no point in driving this car have they been in agreement with each other. The physical one always seems to be a little further up than the digital one. Don't really know why that is, but there's obviously some miscommunication here. All these two readouts are having a bit of a domestic at home and really taking it out on me. Beyond those little niggles that I have with the interior, I can't think of any significant issue with it. Perhaps some things to note though, with the CX-5, if you're looking for a compact crossover with some specific options, this car might present an ultimatum for you. For example, if you want a full glass roof, that's not available anywhere in this vehicle. A wireless phone charger, 360-degree cameras. So if that's something that you need in your new car, then the Mazda CX-5 isn't going to provide that for you. But please don't be so quick to discount this car, because what truly separates the Mazda CX-5 from any of its competitors is just how well it drives. So driving the CX-5 offers a more rewarding experience than I think you can find in practically any other compact crossover. It has darty and very nicely weighted steering. When you're going over any road surfaces, you're feeling those imperfections, but there's such a great amount of dampening in the suspension system that you'll dive down into a crack or a pothole, but it'll always lessen those impacts. You'll feel the imperfections with the road, but you won't suffer from the unpleasantries of them. In the conditions that we have in town today, it just dumped snow last night, so there's some very slippery roads going on right now, and at any point where I was putting a little too much throttle application, I could really feel the back end stepping out before anything serious happened. It's a very controllable and very progressive all-wheel drive system. So the ride comfort is fantastic, and on long highway drives, I feel like this is a much quieter vehicle than the last CX-5 I tested out, which was a 2017 GT. There just seems to be a lot less wind and road noise invading the cabin in this new model. Another thing that Mazda does differently over its competitors when it comes to keyless entry systems is a lot of manufacturers, you can just put your hand behind and the car will open. Here, it's not the case. You have to press a button on the handle for the door to open. I don't think it is as slick as some of the other competitors, but the nice thing about it is you can park up the car and walk away, and it will give a couple beeps and it will just lock itself. There is no need to touch the handle, touch the button, or touch the key fob at all. In a cutthroat category where there are so many competitors, the Mazda CX-5 really is a standout choice in this segment. The brand's very noble and perhaps unparalleled attempt to make vehicles that people want to drive, in addition to a rather luxurious space to sit, is why I absolutely believe this Mazda CX-5 is a segment leader. I think a lot of the upmarket brands need to pay very close attention to this vehicle, as it may very quickly become one of their new direct competitors. So that's been everything from me. Thank you so much for taking the time to watching this video. Please like the video if you liked it, share it if you think other people will like it too, and if you want to hit that subscribe button just down below, that does the world for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again.